Our next speaker is Crenel Francis, and Crenel is the Easement Program Coordinator for the Natural Resources Conservation Service in Florida. He's been serving in this position since 2011. He's worked for NRCS since 1989. In his 25 years, he has held several positions, including student intern, soil conservationist, district conservationist, and resource conservationist. The guy's a conservationist. He's worked in 2 states while he's been employed with NRCS, and that's Nebraska and Florida. He was raised on a sugarcane and cattle farm in Louisiana. He's a graduate of Southern University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He is married and has 2 children. So, Crenel, if you want to come on up, he's going to be talking with us today about wetland reserve easement applications and restoration processes. So, Crenel Francis.
I want to start off by just letting you guys know that I'm going to be talking about the Wetland Reserve Easement Program. This is a program that is set aside by the Farm Bill to give restoration dollars to landowners and eligible landowners and Indian tribes and partners, that corporation that wants to go into the program. I'd like to also acknowledge my supervisor, Ronnie Gutierrez, also my boss here today. But I just want to just give you a brief summary of what we do, what the WRP is all about, and how you can benefit from this program as landowners, as hunters, as participants that participate in different organizations that you can participate in this program. Next. I say this is the 2014 Farm Bill that's called Agriculture Conservation Easement Program, which is called a WRE. Our vision is productive land, healthy environment, helping people, help the land is our mission. What is Agriculture Conservation Easement Program? Wetland Reserve Easement. The Agriculture Conservation Easement Program, Wetland Reserve Easement, is to restore, protect, to enhance wetland on eligible, private, or tribal land while maximizing wildlife habitat benefit. When the program first got started in '96, that wasn't the primary goal. The primary goal was just to restore hydrology, restore engineering. But this last Farm Bill, the focus now is to benefit wildlife habitat. That is the main focus of our restoration that we do on our land as of today. It is an opportunity for landowners to receive financial incentive to restore wetland that have been altered hydrology. And we have a lot of that in South Florida and Everglades, a lot of farmland, from citrus to sugarcane. A lot of those prime farmland down there has been converted, and a lot of them has gone to our program as I speak now. The landowner agrees to limit it on future use of the land, yet retain private ownership. So even though you come into the program, you still retain your ownership of the property. Now, everybody wants a little something for their land, so we have set aside a market analysis which gives us a rate of what we'll pay you per acre for the type of land use that you have. As you can see, this is the scale we used this year for all our application we got in this year. This is what we're paying per acre, from groves to vineyard to berries and to citrus, all the way up to cattle land and organic cropland. So as you can see, it does a pretty good job with as far as paying you the market value of that particular easement. And that's for South Florida. We did market analysis for the whole state of Florida. We have North Florida, Central Florida, and South Florida. That particular one was for South Florida. The WRE provides NRCS with the authorization. The REP program, this is another program beside WRE. I'm going to look ahead of myself. We have 2 programs that really benefits not only private landowner, but also city, local, and state government. This program is called the REP program, the Wetland Reserve Easement Partnership. This is a program that's really is being pushed this farm bill to restore and to enhance wetland that is owned by city, local landowners that the state may own property that want to reduce the restoration. But this authorization to enter into agreement with eligible partners to future the purpose of wetland reserve easement, which is part of the WRE, but this one here, you can really use it as a tool to partnership with us, which we'll pay 75% and you'll pay 25% of the cost, which is a pretty good program. Just wish we had a little more money for it, but it gives opportunity to partnership with our local and state government. The purpose of the program is to target and leverage funds to address high priority wetlands, protection, restoration, enhancement, wetland through agreement with partners. So this is an agreement we have that we would pay a certain percentage of dollar amount, and that's for even with organization, and different city, local government. It's a pretty good program that take advantage of, which this year we didn't get that one application. I don't know why, but so the money goes back to Washington if you don't apply. So program objective for WRE, we look at a couple of things when we think about what we want to do with this property. The objective of the program is habitat for migratory birds and other wetlands, dependable wildlife, including endangered and threatened species and species of concern. Protection and improvement of water quality, attenuation of flood water, recharge of groundwater, protection of enhancement of open space and artistic quality. So as you can see, this program pretty much is all about the environment. How can we continue to protect the environment? How can we take this cropland, convert it back to historical wetland? And we have a goal that we set, an objective we set for each property that we purchase. And before we purchase any property, we have to go what you call, we use a ranking sheet, which we rank out every property that we purchase to make sure we meet those objectives before we purchase. We just don't buy any wetland or buy a cropland. It has to meet certain criteria, and certain criteria we look for and are hydrology, soils, habitat. We look for wildlife. Also, we look at location matters when we look at these properties that apply for the program. Go back a little bit on that. And by doing that, we're able to select a high, medium, low based on the funding we get. Florida, we receive since 2009, the last farm bill, we spent about over $500 million in Florida alone, just purchasing land to put back into wetland so that we can use it for hunting, and I guess we're going to hunt ducks or we hunt coon or whatever. We're going to hunt something, We're going to hunt something, But it's a great open space where the landowner is tied to this easement where they can't put it into housing development. They can use it for recreation. They can't use it for farming anymore. It goes back to its habitat community, which I'm going to talk about next. So the objective of the program is really great, especially if you're a hunter and you like to hunt, because we have lots and lots of acres that we have purchased in Florida that really need some hunters on, and I'm hoping that some of you can get on some of these properties and hunt them. But the application process I wanted to kind of discuss a little bit. It's pretty not complicated, but it's a lot of information needed because we're really buying land. The federal government is buying the land from you, but we just don't own the land. You still holds the title and you still holds the right of the land, but we just buying the surface right to restore it back to its natural condition. So what we'll do for the application stage, if you got a package on the table out there, most of the information here is just information we need to move forward, to see if you're eligible, to see if you're not eligible, to see how well you're ranked, to see if you have clear title, access rights, and to see if the property is meeting our goals and objectives. So A lot of these 1 through 3 is different forms we use to get information to move forward with you with your property. The number one thing is that it's meeting land eligibility. Not every land that is considered to be wet is meeting our standard and specification that we look for on a property. So, and we look at also the environmental condition of the property. We do hazardous check. I mean, there's a lot going to it before we buy it. And whatever property we purchase, believe me, this is a great property for hunting, not just ducks. So when you go in the program, you have an option that you can choose. You have a 30-year contract, which is only for Indian tribes only. You have a 30-year easement, which is, based on different states have different policy as far as easement goes. This is for private landowners or Indian tribe. It's not for state or local government, but the REP program is for state and local government. But this program here is only for private landowners, corporation, and Indian tribes. The permanent easement one is the chart I just showed you above as far as the compensation costs of what we pay for the acres of the property. That would be the permanent easement one. Now, if you go to 30-year one, it's only 75% of that cost that you get per acre, or if you go 30-year easement. So as you can see, you have a choice to go out of the 3 enrollment options. The easement program overview of Florida. Since 1996, NRCS has acquired 140 easements under the following programs. We have different programs that we administer in our easement department, which is Farmlands Protection Program, Grassland Protection Program, and Wetland Reserve Program, which Wetland Reserve Program is the one that we use to restore for hydrology's sake. The grassland is mostly for cattle. Farmland it can be forest, farm, cattle. It can be whatever. But the 2 top one is not for, restoration. It's just basically for protecting the land from any encroachment of urban coming in and building homes and just protection of the farm itself. But the third one is what I do most of is the Wetland Reserve Program. ANOS has invested $550 million to enroll land into WO over the past 6 years. In 2009, over 100,000 acres have been enrolled in WRP, and 95% of all the acres that we have bought is out of the Northern Everglades, which consists of Henry Glade, Okeechobee, Highlands, Polk, Martin County, Dose County, along the Gethsemane River. We have purchased, and that's not even a lot, but it's enough that we can say that we're trying to bring back the Northern Everglades again. So it's a lot of partners within this that helps us out in reaching that goal of 100 acres. But to date, we have, including from 1996 to 2009, I would say we have over 200-some thousand acres that's in Florida as far as WRP. I'm gonna get into what we look for, what we try to accomplish in our land eligibility, what we look for. And there's a few things we want to make sure that we try to accomplish while we are evaluating the property, and that is the habitat type. I think that's one of the most important factor in this program is knowing the habitat type, which I'm gonna go through them. So I have pictures of each one of them. The first one is tidal wetland, which is salt marsh. It's one of the, and each one of these in our ranking sheet have points. So you can get up to 75, 25, 50 points based on your location. In our program, location matters in our program. We really look for location. It really means a lot on the location of the property and where it's located at. And we give points based on your habitat need, the habitat that you are currently having on your property. This is one of the things we look at, tidal wetland. We look at the freshwater marsh. That's most of our easement is freshwater marsh. We tried this, most of it. And all this based on the soil type of the property on as far as the habitat, what we try to bring it back to. So maybe the whole property may not be all freshwater marsh, but portion of it could be, and it could be different habitat could be on the property. As we look at this property and we begin to rank it and begin to evaluate it and look at different aspects of the property, we also take into consideration the different habitats out there, like wet prairie, and all this is going to come to play later on when I talk a little more about the restoration part. River swamp, hydric hammock, hydric flatwood, cypress gum pond. All these are very needed when we looking at the property. Uplands, upland scrubs, and all this habitat are very important to our restoration, because we want to bring back that community that was once lost by dike, drainage, pumps, wells. We want to bring that community back, and you talk about restoration project. Wow, our one single landowner acres is 11,000 acres right now we have in Henry County, which you probably know is called LECO. We have purchased 11,000 acres of LECO to go into the program 2 years ago. They met the eligibility, they met the qualification, and they are in the program now. And as you can see, 11,000 acres will bring you every one of these things here you see out here, and we have to manage, we have to plan for each one of these communities when we do our planning. So at this time, I'm going to talk about the planning stage. So as you can see, we have the application stage, we have the acquisition stage, we have the different programs, and we look at the ranking. And now after all that is done, after we done bought the property, after we done, once we put this little sign out there, which means that it's a conservation easement boundary. Each property have a legal survey on it, so that we can identify the property, and we make sure that every property we buy does not have offsite impact where it affects the landowners. We try to get property that doesn't affect another landowner property by making it wetter. So we try to also look at that too. In some cases it doesn't work, because without having an official survey or engineering survey, we don't know which way the water flows sometimes, because it could be deceiving sometimes. So every now and then we may have to make some adjustment because of that, and sometimes we can't restore it because of that, because of one survey come back, we can't restore it because of offsite impact on landowners. So maybe a few of them that we have overlooked and didn't notice that it was going to cause that without having a survey done on it. The purpose of Wetland Plan of Operation, which is called a WRPO. The WRPO is a guide which have different tools in that plan. It has engineering, it covers habitat, it covers construction. What else, Ronnie? I'm missing one more, right? Engineering, habitat, and construction. It covers those three things there, which gives us an idea on what's going to take place on that property. Plans how the easement will be returned to the greatest extent practical to historical, natural ecological condition existing prior to agriculture manipulation. For example, if the hydrology has been significantly degraded or modified due to long-term grazing or silviculture management practice such as diversion, dams, dikes, or other water management infrastructure, and a hydraulic vegetation structure can be restored by implementation of a WRPO. The purpose of WRPO is to make sure that we capture everything on that property. And I'm going to talk about it after the next slide. And we start off by knowing, how did the site look historically? Before the landowner came in and ditched it, diked it, did all the alteration, changed the hydrology, what did the property really look like before it happens? And that's when we come in and we have to do a lot of research, a lot of study, a lot of looking at old pictures and just knowing what we get into. That's a major part of the WRPO, is knowing what you had before it was altered and the hydrology was altered. Tools to determine historical site condition. What we use as far as when we get ready to plan and do the planning of the restoration plan, we look at soil maps, description. We want to know if this soil is ponded or frequently flooded. We want to know each soil type within that boundary area so that we can determine, and that determines also the habitat that we're going to get where we're working at. If it's going to be a marsh or it's going to be a wet prairie, that determines a lot, the soil type, because that determines your elevation of water that you want out there based on your engineering design. So all that plays a factor in the WRPO. Historical image, historical map, LiDAR, old survey notes, personal account and description. There's a lot of players within the WRPO. We have a staff in Okeechobee of engineers, biologists, planners, and we have Ron and I as a jack of all trades with a master of none, but you know, we try and we're learning. So, so we look at the soil map. We take an area that is considered to be cropland, or it could be a grazing land, which that one is part of the grazing, which was ditching. It was a lot of ditching done. As you see here, there's a lot of ditching done on this property here, and I mean, it was just wow. I mean, it was really, really bad. So that particular property got in a program because the hydrology we was able to restore the hydrology back. Not only that, we was able to bring back the community that was lost at one time, and it met the hydric soils that we're looking for out there, because we want 50-50. We want 50 upland and 50 hydric. We don't want all of it to be wet. We want some upland ground so we can, you know, shoot some deers too, and not just ducks, you know. Like a little deer meat last night. I missed it, but anyway. And we look at historical image. We really get into it. I mean, it's like a science. We're trying to figure out what happened. What really happened to this property, and what can we do to bring it back so we can bring back the habitat that used to be there, and how we can, and what do we need to do? It's a lot of alternatives that we flow through, because the WRPO is a plan, and we look at it in three different ways. We look at it in one way, we look at it in different ways, three ways, so we can figure what would be the best way to restore this land back so we can bring back the habitat that we need in order to make this a great wetland. So that's a big, and we go back image to 1945, 55. We go back way back so we know what it was and what it is and what it is today, and how can we bring it back to the historical image that we're showing here, which is a big difference from here to here. Big difference. We look at LiDAR, so we try to figure out the elevation of the property, you know, what area would the water hold, what area would the water back into, so that LiDAR is very important to us. We do a lot of, it helps out a lot knowing your habitat too. It helps out a whole lot, the LiDAR. Old survey notes, we look for old survey notes that, you know, how did, you know, they was able to, alter this field, and we use that. We use different types of engineering practices to restore the site. We use dikes. These are all our codes we use for NRCS when we're getting ready to restore a site. We have to know, based on these different practices, we will decide on which one would be best used for the property. And we have also standard and specification for each one of them and what their purpose is. I'll go through a few of them here. Like the dikes, we put in a lot of dikes because we don't want offsite impact, or we have to hold water back because of ditching and dredging that has occurred, and we want to hold the water back to a certain level or a certain height. So we surveyed the levees, so we have a nice bank so we can continue to bring it back to what it used to be, a marsh or a wet prairie, whatever the case may have been back then. We use heavy use protection area for crossing, stream crossing. Most of our easements are in pastures, so we have to compensate for that. And some of the ditches that is out there was just used for crossing trucks and cow, but we want to make sure we stabilize the bank, so we use a stream crossing, so that we have a better foundation, a hard foundation, so we can hold some of the water back, but also have a good crossing for vehicles and livestock use. Land smoothing, you know, for areas that are uneven, we want to bring that area back to what it used to be. As far as all the ditching that has been done, we want to take the banks out and fill the ditch back in, but also land level it so that we can get that community we're looking for in there. We also have, we also use line waterway as an outlet, as you can see, stabilize the bank for erosion control. We also use stream crossing. We build this bridge so we can have a good stream crossing for the cows and for vehicle use, and so we can keep them out of the drainage, out of the stream. And construction. After everything else has been planned out, after everything else has been decided on, after everything has been talked about, you know, we have different stages we use when we do this WRPO. We have different partners. We have the Fish and Wildlife Commission, we have Fish and Wildlife Service, we have the Army Corps of Engineers. We have different partners that participate in this restoration plan. We also hire out different companies to work with us and to develop these plans. We don't do everything in-house. Most of it's done contracted out. But we make the final decision as far as what alternative we will use to meet the objective of the program. And this is one we did in Highlands County about 3 years ago. A restoration we done out there, which was very successful restoration. And the cost of it, the restoration is, we're not talking $100, we're talking millions of dollars on some of these sites to restore. Because we got to go back, take out pumps, take out levees, ditch plugs. I mean, it's a lot involved when you're looking at restoration, and not just buying the easement for millions of dollars, but it also costs us a couple million just to restore it. And so, like I said, so that we can have a good restoration, you know, to do some good duck hunting. Yes. Y'all happy for that? Good duck hunting, you know. So, you know, and we, you know, so and like I say, we try to create a good habitat management plan because we want the wildlife there, and that's what we should. We want the wildlife to come back and to use the land like it was used many years ago. Being in sugarcane or citrus, it's not being used like it should be used, you know, for ducks and stuff. I mean, I don't see no duck in a sugarcane field, but. All right, so this is the construction site we did in Okeechobee. It's a site that has, where it was a drainage ditch that was running right in the middle of it, so we decided to put an outfall so that we can back the water up to meet the community we're looking for, which I think it was a marsh we was trying to accomplish. And this is one of the construction sites that we that was going on 2 years ago. As you can see, it's a lot of hard work. But the end result is that we taking land that was degraded and bringing it back to historical use. Now it takes a couple of years to get back to the habitat that you're looking for, because it takes a while for the land to really understand what's going on based on the hydrology that we have accomplished out there, but it's not going to happen overnight. That's why some of these are perpetual easements. So I always tell everybody, I say, this land got 12 years to get right, and I retired, and after that, whatever, you know. I mean, anyway, but this is some of the construction going on out there, and as you can see, this is the end result of it. And here we go. By the time it's all said and done, we have a nice inlet drop here that's basically set at elevation where it can back water up to meet that habitat need for that particular area that has been degraded by ditching and draining. And so we put a ditch plug, put a inlet structure there so we can hold back the water to meet the habitat need. Now, we never pump water in our easement. We don't use pumps. Everything is done naturally. This is the same place here, and that's the end result of it is here. And being that about another mile or two there's a highway, we try to keep it at an elevation where it don't back water on the highway. But it does enough job where it can bring in at least enough water to bring back the habitat that used to be here before it was altered by, hydraulic was altered by ditching and stuff. So this is what we have here. Let's see. This is also the finished product of what we put in. And this is what's happened when it's all said and done. And any questions?
The $500 million that you've got invested, does that include the construction cost, or was that only the easement cost?
No, sir. That is just that just include the easement cost. It doesn't include the boundary survey. It doesn't include the title company we have to hire. It's just the easement.
So that we've got 100,000 acres that we've got easements on. How much of that is available to the public for access?
All our land is not open to the public because the landowner still owns the land. We just own the surface right. So it's not open to the public, but a lot of the landowners does have a lot of hunting clubs. They lease the land for hunting. So, but it's not a right you can just go on the private because they still pay tax on the land.
Does the USDA have right to go in to make sure that that the easement has not been abrogated? Can you go back and inspect to make sure that they're not running cattle on it? Or
there's a lot of things I didn't talk about because due to time, it'll take about 4 hours to do what I need to do. But do that, we have to eat at noon. I don't want nobody jumping on me. I want to explain to you that every easement have to get permission to graze, to even mow the grass. We have what you call this, the habitat management plan within the WRPO. It's like a guide, like a recipe on how to continue to manage the property. And we have job sheets, we have specification, we have burn plans, we have different method that we give the landowner to continue to manage that property. And we do an annual monitoring of the property every year. And we're also starting this year, the Fish and Wildlife Commission going to be evaluating our properties to make sure are we meeting that habitat we was trying to accomplish. So there is an evaluation tool that we're going to start doing to make sure that we are meeting the goals of that WRPO. The WRPO is very important to us because we want to make sure that we accomplish the goal that we set aside to do. And so I give kudos to the Fish and Wildlife Commission for that support they've given us in helping us to reach that goal. But every landowner, even though they have grazing on it, they still have a grazing plan. There's no more farming, but they can graze, which is the benefit for us because it keeps the grass down, keep the willows out. You know, it keeps a lot of the exotics down. You can't get rid of everything. I mean, there's still going to be Brazilian peppers no matter what you do. There's still going to be Colgan grass. There's still going to be, you know, you name it, Lagodium. Still going to be those things. But we want to, that's why we do monitoring our property a year to make sure that these exotics don't get out of hand. And so, when we are going back and spray some of them to control some of the exotics. So it's a maintenance issue. It's going to be a maintenance issue for a long time. And a long, long time, after 12 years or whatever, like I say.